Right, England's team has just come out, been announced ahead of Australia's test this weekend at Allianz Twickenham. Let me get that one right. I often get that one wrong. It's still new to me. However, is there big talking points? Well, there's a few. So if we look at the starting team, it's exactly the same. However, Ollie Lawrence has shifted to 13 and they've moved Henry Slade to 12. So they've announced and put it on paper. This is different from the following week, from the previous week against New Zealand. But don't be surprised. If you think about line-out strikes and Ollie Lawrence's power game and the things that he does week in, week out for Bath, especially a lot of people see it. So you have a line-out. It looks like a team's going to maul. The guy who's the +1 in the line-out, so where the scrum half would normally stand, sometimes the forward goes into that position. The ball comes down from the line-out. They hit it and makes it look like for a maul. And the person that's in that 9 position, being the insert, hits the maul and breaks away. And Ollie Lawrence is fantastic at coming into that seam. So I suspect, even though he's down at 13, off certain moves, off certain strikes, you're going to be using Ollie to get into that seam. You're going to be using him really effectively off the tail of the lineouts, getting into that disconnect between 10 and the tail gunner and using that. Obviously, Tommy Freeman is another guy that's fantastic for doing that. He runs it a lot of time for Saints. I've seen him do it very, very well effectively there, of course. So, little subtle change there. Through multi-phase, is it going to have a massive difference? Not really. I suspect those guys will just kind of sit in the back of pods, get into their shape, and Henry's there obviously to distribute a little bit more and give Ollie a bit more space on the outside. But off strikes, with him going there, kind of will give away, I think, when England are likely to go through to that seam, rather than if they're going to go off the top of the line out and then try and get to the width. Often that will go through Slade's hands, dare say, and have Ollie on a short line, sitting down defenders. Now, to nullify that team selection, and I'm just wondering whether to give Ollie a bit more space, of course, as we don't know the Australian team yet. However, Samu Kerevi is, of course, in the Australian team, and he hasn't been since the World Cup just gone. Now, he is a big piece of kit. Very, very powerful, very, very strong. So I suspect he could be Australia. It's 12 for the weekend. So his match actually against Ollie, as he comes into those seams, he'll probably be dealing with him more, even though they're not exactly 12v12. Ollie being 13, but if he's coming for a lot of those carries in and around those areas, Samu Kerevi at 12 will often pick that up. As we look at the bench, so the 6-2 split is the experiment is definitely over for this weekend. Now, I dare say it could be back next week against South Africa, given the power, the scrummaging capabilities of Africa. We all know how good they are around set piece and their power game and the bomb squad that they're able to unleash. I dare say it could be back next week. But for this weekend, they've gone back to tradition. 5-3 split. Now, any big news coming out of that? Well, it's good to see Luke Cowan-Dickie back out there. I think for me, he's a fabulous hooker. Really robust. Brings a lot of aggression, chop tackle, get over the ball. He's sort of full of aggression, I guess. Proper handful. But he's come back from a really bad sort of neck problem that gave nerve damage down his shoulder. Unfortunately, he missed the World Cup in 2023 to it. He's had a long way to recovery to getting to this point. And he should be super proud getting back in there. So it's good to see Luke back involved. I dare say Theo Dan failed his HIA assessment, therefore he's unavailable due to protocols, which rules him out straight away. So I wouldn't say that's necessarily a tactical decision. I'd say that's more so forced upon due to injury and circumstances. But nonetheless, it's great to see Luke Cowan-Dickie back out there. Now, I don't know a whole lot about scrummaging, and my co-host obviously isn't here because he's going to be playing at the weekend, so good to see him back involved. He knows about scrummaging. But given Luke Cowan-Dickie's experience, given his profile and everything like that, I would say that potentially he could help the England scrum. Now, don't hold me to that. Theo Dan's still learning his trade, but Luke Cowan-Dickie's been around long enough now to know what the situation goes at that. So I think it actually will bolster our scrum a little bit this weekend. Ben Curry misses out. Now, this one I am surprised about. I thought he was the best sub that came on for England at the weekend. I thought he added a lot of energy. I thought he got over the ball. I thought his decisions around the breakdown were unbelievable. He got a key jackal at one point, holding the ball and got it and won a penalty for England. I thought he was really, really lively. And I was surprised to see him miss out, actually. You got Don Brandt, of course, another guy that's unbelievably talented, of course, and everything like that. But I just felt like if you're going off the basis of who played better, between who takes that back row space and that slot coming off the bench, then I think Ben Curry probably edged it for me, given how impactful he was at the weekend. I really do think he was the best sub that came on. Now, other than that, you've got your normal guys out there, but Ollie Slightholme comes on. So given the 6-2 split's gone, 5-3 means Ben Curry misses out. Ollie Slightholme comes in to make up that extra back. And keeping, of course, Rands, George Ford, and now Ollie. Now, Ollie got a little bit of an opportunity in the summer, of course, against New Zealand. We spoke on the previous episode with Tommy Freeman about just how quick he is and electric he can be. For those of you who wouldn't have seen much of him, I encourage you to watch sort of the final play against New Zealand in Auckland and that test where he goes in and out of the winger. Incredible. He's got electric pace. So he's someone that could be unleashed and be a danger, certainly for Australia when he gets his hands on the ball. But other than that, much to be expected. I didn't think there would be huge change, if I'm honest. I felt like certain personnel, if they had been swapped out, then actually you end up being the blame game. And as a player, that is horrible. So, look, the subs will want to come on and do a better job than probably they did last week. Well, in fact, they will want to do a better job than they did last week. But as I say, my overriding emotion right now, I'm not really surprised. 6-2 experiment's over, at least till South Africa, I believe. Ollie Slightholme gets a go. I feel sorry for Ben Curry. I felt like he deserved another shot. It's good to see him back out there. But look, Don Brandt, he hits good lines. Maybe potentially. Is it a sign that England are going to play a bit more rugby this weekend? I'm not quite sure. And other than that, the Slade-Lawrence situation, multi-phase, I don't think it's going to have a massive impact. But I do think when England line up to run their strikes, if I'm Australia, potentially where Ollie starts, if he's in the 12 slot and him and Slade swap over, I'm guessing they're coming down the middle. Now, if Slade stays where he is, I'd say there's every chance that England will go out the back of it and try and go to the width. So there we have it. Fresh news. And that's my thoughts. Comment below. Subscribe, like, give me your thoughts. What would you have had differently? Would you have had any change yourself? Would you have kept it the same? Or would you have entirely different starting 15? Would you have had a different bench? Would you stuck to the 6-2? I'm intrigued. Let me know. But they're my thoughts straight after the announcement.